Hello friends, welcome back to Mindset Hub Tube. In the previous video, we explored lessons 7 to 12 from The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, where we learned about freedom, saving, invisible wealth, endurance, and how to prepare for life's surprises. If you haven't watched part 1 and part 2 yet, I recommend checking them out so you can enjoy the complete journey and understand every lesson in order. In today's video, we move forward with Lesson 13 and continue uncovering more powerful insights that can completely transform the way you think about money, success, and the psychology behind financial decisions.
Moving on to the 13th lesson, we learned that room for error, or what Morgan Housel calls a margin of safety, is one of the most important principles in building lasting wealth. This lesson teaches us that financial success doesn't come from perfect predictions or flawless plans. It comes from allowing space for mistakes, uncertainty, and the unexpected turns that life always brings. In money and investing, things rarely go exactly as planned. Markets crash, jobs are lost, health emergencies arise, and opportunities change. Most people fail financially not because their strategy was bad, but because they left no margin for error. No cushion to protect them when things go wrong. Housel explains that even the best investors and smartest minds cannot predict everything. So instead of aiming to be always right, the key is to stay strong even when you're wrong. A margin of safety means living below your means, saving more than you think you need, and avoiding overconfidence. It means not taking risks that could wipe you out completely. For example, if you invest all your money into one opportunity, or spend as if your income will never drop, even a small unexpected setback can ruin everything. But when you build a financial cushion, a few months of expenses saved, a diversified portfolio, or an emergency fund, you protect yourself from life's uncertainty. This lesson is also deeply psychological. Many people push themselves to the edge financially because they want faster growth or bigger returns. But true wealth isn't about speed. It's about survival. The ability to stay in the game long enough for compounding to work its magic is more important than chasing big wins. And that endurance is only possible when you have a margin for error. Morgan Housel reminds us that risk is what's left after you think you've thought of everything. That means no matter how careful or intelligent you are, there will always be unknowns. The only defense is preparation. A margin for error turns uncertainty into a threat, into something you can handle. For instance, imagine someone who invests 100% of their savings into the stock market. If the market crashes tomorrow, they could lose half their wealth instantly, and panic might cause them to sell at the worst possible time. But another person who keeps a portion of their money in cash or safer assets can survive that same downturn calmly and wait for recovery. The second person's wealth grows over time not because they were smarter, but because they gave themselves the flexibility to survive downturns. This concept also applies beyond money, in careers, business, and even relationships. A margin for error means not burning all bridges, not overcommitting, and leaving space for life to surprise you. It's the balance between ambition and humility. You aim high, but you also respect the fact that you might be wrong sometimes, and that's okay if you've prepared for it. The 13th lesson reminds us that lasting financial success is not about taking big risks, but about staying safe enough to keep playing the game. Never let optimism or greed convince you to bet everything. Build buffers, save extra, leave space for the unknown. The key takeaway is simple. You don't have to be perfect to succeed. You just have to stay in the game long enough for your plan to work. And to do that, always give yourself room for error.
Moving on to the 14th lesson, we learn that you'll change over time, and so will your goals. Morgan Housel highlights an often overlooked truth. What we want today might not be what we want 10 or 20 years from now. The things that seem important right now, like buying a car, getting a dream job, or hitting a financial milestone, might not hold the same meaning later in life. This lesson reminds us that flexibility is one of the greatest financial strengths a person can have. Most people make long-term decisions assuming that their future self will want exactly what their current self wants. They plan careers, investments, and lifestyles around a fixed idea of what success means. But in reality, human desires evolve. What feels like a goal today could become a burden tomorrow. That's why it's dangerous to lock yourself into rigid financial commitments or irreversible choices based only on who you are right now. Housel explains that change is natural. It's a sign of growth, not inconsistency. The problem is that when people fail to anticipate change, they often end up feeling stuck or regretful. For example, someone might take on a huge mortgage or work endless hours chasing a lifestyle they thought would make them happy, only to realize later that freedom or time with family mean more. The money may still be there, but the satisfaction isn't. This lesson teaches us the importance of building financial flexibility. That means avoiding commitments that restrict your ability to adapt when your goals shift. For instance, saving more than you need gives you the power to pivot careers, start something new, or take time off when your priorities evolve. Financial flexibility is not just about security, it's about having choices. Another key point is the difference between reasonable and rational. Rational decisions are based purely on logic and numbers. Reasonable decisions, on the other hand, balance logic with emotion and the understanding that our lives and preferences change. A purely rational investor might maximize returns but feel miserable doing it. A reasonable investor might earn slightly less but feel more at peace, and in the long run, that peace keeps them consistent and successful. Housel's insight here is powerful. You don't have to make perfect financial decisions for life. You just have to make good ones for your life right now while keeping the door open for change later. That's why he encourages living with humility about your own future. Instead of asking, "What's my lifelong financial plan?" you might ask, "What's my plan for now, and how can I stay flexible when my needs change?" One of the most common reasons people get into financial trouble is lifestyle rigidity, spending and living in a way that leaves no room to adjust. They define success so narrowly that any change feels like failure. But if you build a life with flexibility, savings, minimal unnecessary debt, and adaptable goals, you gain the ability to shift direction when your heart or circumstances demand it. This lesson is deeply freeing. It gives you permission to evolve without guilt. Changing your financial goals doesn't mean you were wrong before, it means you've grown. What matters most is that you've given yourself the space and stability to handle that growth gracefully. The takeaway from this lesson is profound. Plan for your future, but never assume you'll stay the same. Give yourself the flexibility to grow, change, and redefine success as life unfolds. Wealth is not just about having enough money. It's about having enough freedom to live life on your terms, even as those terms evolve.
In this 15th lesson, Morgan Housel delivers a profound reminder. Everything has a price, but not all prices are visible. When we talk about money, people usually think of prices in rupees or dollars. But Housel wants us to understand that every financial success, every investment gain, and every opportunity in life carries a hidden cost. It might not be written on a receipt, but it's always there, waiting to be paid in the form of time, effort, uncertainty, stress, or emotional endurance. Let's take investing as an example. Everyone wants high returns, but very few are willing to endure the price of volatility, watching their portfolio swing up and down, sometimes losing value for years before recovering. That emotional roller coaster is the cost of earning big returns. The market rewards those who can handle the discomfort without panicking. The problem is that most people want rewards without paying the emotional price. When the market falls, they sell out of fear. When prices rise, they chase returns out of greed. They treat volatility like a penalty when in fact it's simply the fee for long-term growth. Housel beautifully compares this to buying a ticket to a great movie. You wouldn't walk out halfway just because you had to pay for the ticket. Yet in investing, people walk out during downturns because they can't tolerate the emotional fee. The key, he says, is to recognize that discomfort is part of the price, not a punishment. This lesson goes beyond investing. Every good thing in life, success, relationships, health, or freedom, demands some kind of price. If you want freedom, the price might be discipline. If you want wealth, the price might be patience. If you want peace of mind, the price might be saying no to things that look attractive but don't align with your values. The tragedy is that many people give up too soon because they never accepted the true cost from the start. They imagine an easy road, and when challenges appear, they think something has gone wrong, when in reality, they're just paying the standard price of success. Morgan Housel suggests that we make peace with this truth early. Before you start investing, building a business, or chasing any dream, ask yourself, am I willing to pay the real price for this? The moment you say yes, with awareness and acceptance, you gain emotional strength. You stop seeing challenges as problems and start seeing them as proof that you're on the right path. In finance, this principle is vital. The price of great returns is volatility. The price of financial independence is delayed gratification. The price of long-term wealth is consistency and patience. And the price of learning is making mistakes and staying humble. Many people fail because they want shortcuts. They want the reward without the price. But every time you skip the price, you also skip the value. Housel reminds us that nothing worth having comes without cost, and the most valuable things often come with the highest emotional toll. The smart approach, he says, is to choose your price wisely, not to avoid paying, but to make sure you're paying for something truly worth it. Don't waste your energy on things that look glamorous but cost your peace or integrity. Pay for what matters: freedom, security, learning, and long-term happiness. And remember, you always pay whether you know it or not. The question isn't whether something is free, it's whether you understand what you're really paying for. Once you grasp that truth, you can make better choices and stop being surprised when the bill comes to you. So this lesson is a reminder to embrace the hidden costs of success with awareness. The sooner you accept that nothing's free, the calmer, wiser, and more resilient you become, in money and in life.
In this 16th lesson, Morgan Housel delivers one of the most eye-opening truths about money. We all play different financial games. What looks like a bad decision to you might make perfect sense to someone else, because their goals, timelines, and experiences are completely different from yours. Imagine two people buying the same stock. One plans to hold it for 20 years as a retirement investment. The other plans to sell it within a week to make a quick profit. If the price drops tomorrow, the short-term trader might panic, while the long-term investor remains calm. The exact same event, one price movement, creates two opposite reactions. Why? Because they're not playing the same game. Housel explains that much of financial confusion and judgment comes from this misunderstanding. We often criticize others for their money choices because we assume they're playing the same game as us, but they're not. Everyone has their own unique background, risk tolerance, goals, and emotional triggers. A person saving for retirement, a person speculating in crypto, a day trader, and a 60-year-old pensioner, all of them are participating in the financial system, but each one plays a different version of the game. When you forget this, you start comparing your strategy, results, and timeline to theirs, and that's where most people lose peace of mind. Morgan Housel reminds us that financial decisions are rarely about data alone. They're about context. What's risky for one person might be completely safe for another, depending on where they stand in life. For example, someone who's young can afford to take big investment risks because they have time to recover from mistakes. But a retiree living off savings cannot take that same risk. Their priority is stability, not growth. Both approaches are right for them. This lesson teaches us humility. It reminds us that just because something works for someone else doesn't mean it will work for you, and vice versa. The key to financial success is staying true to your own game. Housel also warns about one major trap: imitating people who play a different game. When you see someone making fast money in speculative markets, it's tempting to copy them. But if your goals are long-term, like building wealth for your future, their strategy could destroy your peace and your portfolio. You're borrowing someone else's playbook without understanding their risk tolerance or timeline. It's like playing football using cricket rules. It just doesn't work. Instead, Housel encourages you to define your personal financial game. Ask yourself, what am I really trying to achieve with my money? How long do I plan to stay invested? What kind of risk keeps me awake at night? What does enough mean for me? Once you answer these questions honestly, you stop getting distracted by what others are doing. you start focusing on your path, and that's when real progress begins. This idea applies not just to investing, but to life in general. We live in a world of constant comparison, where social media, trends, and success stories make us believe we're falling behind. But remember, you and me are not the same. We come from different places, have different goals, and face different challenges. Comparing our journeys only creates unnecessary stress. Housel's advice is simple but powerful. Play your own game and respect others for playing theirs. Don't mock or imitate, observe and learn. The goal is not to win the game others are playing, but to win your own. When you stop comparing, you start making decisions that truly align with your values and goals. You begin to measure success not by what others have, but by how much peace and freedom you've built for yourself. In the end, money isn't about competition. It's about comfort, control, and choice. When you focus on your game, you gain all three. So Lesson 16 reminds us, understand the game you're playing, accept that others play differently, and stop comparing your chapter to someone else's story. That mindset alone can save you from countless financial and emotional mistakes.
In this 17th lesson, Morgan Housel explores a fascinating truth about human psychology. Pessimism sounds smarter than optimism. When someone says things are going to get worse, people believe them more easily than when someone says things will improve. But why? Because pessimism feels realistic, while optimism feels naive. Housel explains that our brains are naturally wired to detect threats and dangers. Thousands of years ago, this mindset helped humans survive. If you ignored a threat, you could die. But if you missed an opportunity, you could still live. That survival instinct still shapes how we see the world today. We react faster to fear than to hope. When someone warns that the stock market will crash or that the economy will collapse, it sounds intelligent, even courageous. On the other hand, when someone says, "Everything will be fine, things will improve," it can sound overly simple or careless. Yet history shows that optimism, not fear, has been the true story of progress. Think about it. Over centuries, economies have faced wars, recessions, inflation, and political turmoil, yet the long-term direction of human progress has always been upward. Innovation, technology, and productivity keep pushing us forward. The world doesn't get better every day, but it gets better every decade. Housel says pessimism seduces us because it sells faster. News channels, analysts, and even social media thrive on fear because fear grabs attention. Bad news feels urgent. Good news feels boring. A single negative headline can erase years of confidence, even when reality isn't as dark as it sounds. This mindset deeply affects how we handle money. When markets fall, people panic and sell. When inflation rises, people stop investing. But the truth is, short-term pessimism blinds us from long-term opportunity. Every crisis in history eventually gave birth to new growth, innovation, and wealth. The great investors like Warren Buffett understand this. They know that markets fall often, but they always rise over time. They treat pessimism as a natural part of progress, not as a sign of failure. Warren Buffett once said, "For 240 years, it's been a terrible mistake to bet against America." Housel uses this logic to remind readers that while short-term pessimism will always sound right, long-term optimism is almost always true. He also points out that optimism doesn't mean ignoring problems. It means believing that problems can be solved. Optimism is progress with patience. It's confidence with realism. The key is not blind hope, but informed faith that human creativity always finds a way. In our personal financial lives, this lesson matters deeply. If we constantly fear crashes, layoffs, or losses, we'll never take the risks required for growth. We'll stay stuck, protecting what we have instead of building what we could have. The seduction of pessimism can even steal your dreams. When you start thinking the world is against you, that money is impossible to earn, or that success belongs only to the lucky, you stop trying. But history proves otherwise.
persistence, optimism, and patience have built every fortune, every business, and every breakthrough. Morgan Housel wants us to train our minds to recognize this emotional bias. When fear creeps in, ask yourself, is this really the end or just another temporary setback? Most of the time, it's the latter. So, instead of being seduced by fear, learn to trust in long-term progress. Remember that setbacks are temporary and growth is permanent. Stay realistic, but never lose optimism. Because optimism, when grounded in patience and effort, is the ultimate engine of success. In short, Lesson 17 reminds us, pessimism sounds smart, but optimism actually works. Stay hopeful, stay steady, and keep believing in progress, because history has always rewarded those who do.
In this 18th lesson, Morgan Housel emphasizes a critical truth about money. Financial decisions are deeply personal, but the struggles you face are universal. Many people feel isolated when dealing with money, whether it's debt, investment losses, or fear of not having enough. But Housel reminds us that no one's financial journey is truly unique. Everyone experiences uncertainty, mistakes, and learning along the way. This lesson is both comforting and instructive. Humans naturally compare themselves to others, which often leads to feelings of inadequacy. You might look at someone else's career, savings, or lifestyle and feel you're behind. But Housel points out that appearances are deceiving. Every person you see has a story you don't know, mistakes, setbacks, risks, and choices that shaped their path. Understanding that you're not alone helps in two important ways: patience and self-compassion. When you realize that everyone struggles and makes mistakes, it's easier to forgive yourself for errors and continue learning. Financial growth isn't linear, and no one gets it perfect. Treat your journey as a process, not a race. Perspective on decisions. Knowing that others are facing similar challenges prevents panic-driven decisions. For example, during market downturns, people often sell out of fear. Remembering that others are also navigating uncertainty can help you stay calm and stick to your plan. Housel also highlights that social and emotional pressures can distort financial behavior. People often make choices to fit in, impress others, or avoid judgment. But when you recognize that everyone faces the same struggles, the pressure eases. You can focus on what truly matters to your goals instead of reacting to external comparisons. Another key insight in this lesson is the importance of learning from others' experiences. While each person's journey is unique, studying successes and failures can provide guidance, reduce mistakes, and accelerate growth. But the ultimate point remains: don't feel alone. Everyone experiences doubt, fear, and confusion when it comes to money, even the people who appear successful. In practical terms, this lesson encourages building financial resilience not just through money, but through mindset. Know that setbacks are normal, mistakes are inevitable, and patience is essential. By internalizing that you are part of a shared human experience, you reduce anxiety, improve decision-making, and strengthen your long-term financial habits. Housel's message is deeply human. We all struggle, we all learn, and we all grow. And the sooner you accept that, the more confident and calm you become with your money. The takeaway from Lesson 18 is simple. You are not alone in your financial journey. Understanding this frees you from unnecessary fear, judgment, and comparison, empowering you to focus on what really matters, building lasting wealth, freedom, and peace of mind.
In this 19th and final lesson, Morgan Housel delivers a profound reminder that ties together everything in the book. Wealth is often invisible. True financial success isn't measured by flashy cars, luxurious homes, or designer clothes. It's measured by the money you don't spend, the freedom you create, and the security you build for the future. Housel explains that society often confuses wealth with visible consumption. People admire displays of success, a new car, a lavish vacation, or a mansion, but those are not the markers of true wealth. In fact, spending money to show others your status often reduces your real wealth because it's money you could have saved, invested, or used to create freedom. The essence of wealth is choice and control. It's the ability to walk away from obligations you don't want, the flexibility to take risks, and the security to handle life's surprises. Wealth is not about what you flaunt. It's about what you quietly keep, grow, and protect. This lesson also emphasizes restraint and long-term thinking. Most people chase lifestyle upgrades or social validation, thinking it will bring happiness or status. But the more you spend to impress others, the less financial freedom you truly have. Housel stresses that living below your means and making decisions that prioritize security, patience, and compounding is the real path to wealth. Another insight is that visible success can be misleading. When we look at someone driving a sports car or living in a luxury apartment, we don't know the financial sacrifices behind it, the debt, the risk, or the lack of savings. True wealth isn't visible because it's often intangible: emergency funds, investments, financial independence, and time freedom. Housel also connects this to behavior and psychology. Building wealth isn't about getting rich quickly or being brilliant. It's about consistency, patience, and avoiding lifestyle inflation. Every dollar saved and invested is a step toward freedom. Steps that may not be visible today, but compound over time into something powerful and life-changing. The final lesson ties together the entire philosophy of the book. Money is a tool, not a trophy. The goal isn't to impress others or display your success. The goal is to have options, security, and peace of mind. True wealth allows you to make choices without fear, pursue opportunities without pressure, and live life on your terms. Morgan Housel leaves readers with a simple yet profound principle. Focus on what money can give you, not what it can show others. The richest people are often those who appear modest because they understand that real wealth is invisible. The takeaway is clear. Wealth is what you don't see. The money saved, the opportunities created, and the freedom earned. Protect it, grow it, and let it work quietly for you.
That wraps up the final part of The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. In this video, we explored lessons 13 to 19, covering the importance of margins of safety, adapting to change, understanding hidden costs, playing your own financial game, resisting the seduction of pessimism, realizing you're not alone, and recognizing that true wealth is often invisible. These lessons show that financial success isn't just about numbers or income. It's about mindset, patience, behavior, and the ability to make smart decisions over the long term. By understanding and applying these principles, you can build lasting wealth, freedom, and peace of mind. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Mindset Hub Tube for more life-changing insights and book summaries. Remember, true wealth is what you don't see, the freedom, security, and choices you quietly create for yourself. Thank you for watching, and may these lessons guide you towards smarter financial decisions and a richer, more meaningful life.